Hello and welcome to Mirror Fighting One to Watch. I'm Rich Jones and today I'm joined by Hopey Price, the first Brit to ever win an Olympic Youth Games gold medal in boxing and one of the top prospects coming through at the moment. We talk about everything from his traveller background to his glittering amateur career to turning pro early under Dave Caldwell and having some fascinating experiences early on in the pro ranks. So yeah, an interesting discussion. Hope you enjoy. I hope you obviously got your next fight planned. It's obviously been a pretty crazy sort of year in the world, but yeah, it doesn't seem to have affected your plans too much. Obviously, you got out of fight camp, getting out again early in the new year. You must be pretty pleased with the chances you've managed to have during the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. I think a big part of it is like staying ready. As such, I think most fighters they just take the time out of the gym or with lockdown, what was on they want training at home as such. So I just keep on training all the way through. I know it's a bit thingy, but it's always staying ready. So stay ready, waiting for that phone call to come, and when it does come, then I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fight. So that's one of the things what my coach Dave Caldwell told me is to make sure I stay ready because, as you know, now there's less fights. When an opportunity comes up, you've got to grab it with both hands.
Yeah, and of course, boxers obviously talk a lot about that staying ready. I mean, what does that entail? I guess, Christmas must have been, not really able to eat everything you want. Again, what's it entail on a day-to-day when fighters talk about that staying ready?
Yeah, it's just like you say, it's more of a mental thing. If you want to go to the top of the sport, I think you've got to be mentally willing to make sacrifices. And like say, I'm only young. It is hard for me. I was staying in, but I can't eat what you want. Got to train over Christmas, spend time away from your family, and all things like that, really. But it all pays off in the end when you get the opportunities to fight on such big cards.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of wanting to make it to the top. Obviously, you're pretty early in your professional career, but, a lot of people have tipped you for big things. I mean, you're still only young. How do you sort of cope with the pressure that comes with, the expectations that people put on you?
Yeah, it's just I just take it all in my stride. If anything, I like a bit of pressure. I like people talking my name and talking, saying good things about me. Obviously, you get people, obviously, who there's doubters there as well, but that only motivates me. And as say the young age I am, I just take it all in my stride, and I know where I want to be in the sport, and obviously, I think I'll get there.
Yeah, and obviously the sort of high expectations come quite a lot from, you had a great amateur career and stuff like that. But where did it all start for you? How did you end up getting into boxing? Just tell me a little bit about that.
For me, I was sort of born into boxing. Ever since I was 18 months old, I knew every shot in the book. As people might not know, my dad was my amateur trainer, so I trained literally from no age, and I've been boxing my entire life. From maybe 11, 12, I stopped going to school. All my schooling was boxing. So I had a good amateur career. I won every title amateur, and it's just about doing the same in the pros. I want to be the best in the world in the pros, not just in the amateur. So that's why I turned over so young.
Yeah, and how was it growing up with your dad as your amateur coach? I mean, what's your relationship like with him? What was it like as a youngster growing up with him?
Yes, there's a lot of it going, and some of them butt heads. But me and my dad, I always got on. I was always disciplined. I done what I was told as such, and I had the belief in him. What he was telling me was the right thing. So for me, it worked. For some people, it didn't, but for me, it worked. But he's still there now. He still guides me in the right direction. And when it comes to turning pro, obviously, he was the one who said, "Right, time for you to go train with someone else," which was Dave. It was sort of both our choice to train with Dave. So that was that as well.
And how's it been with Dave Caldwell? Obviously, you've been working together a bit now. You enjoying it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I couldn't have made a better choice. I believe personally he's the best coach in Britain. So, and that's not just me just saying that. You look at what he's done with other fighters, and everything he said he'd do, he's delivered. And I feel like I've improved loads, and I'm improving every single day in the gym.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously you sort of grew up fighting, and you say you sort of stopped going to school at 11 or 12. And when I was sort of looking at your old sort of social media stuff to try and get some stuff for this interview, I saw one of the posts you did about I think it was a photo of you and Tyson Fury, and it was talking about obviously coming from a traveller background and the challenges that you sort of face in that regard from a gypsy background. Can you just tell me a bit about that, and what you were saying with that, and what it was, what it was like growing up essentially, and some of the stuff you faced from that sort of background.
Everyone just thinks like, I think a lot of us get tarnished with the same brush, like you say. There's good and bad and all sorts of people, and for me, obviously, it's quite hard when you go to, say, I did go to primary school, and you got people calling your names and doing this and that, and obviously, as a young kid, you get wound up, and obviously, they provoke me, and it looks like you're the one, say, getting in trouble, but it was always like that, even in boxing terms. There was obviously people was maybe had a thing against travellers and sometimes caused me bad decisions and things like that. And the sort of thing was with Tyson Fury, what he's gone on to do, he's been the first one to go and do it. For us, like it was a big accomplishment, because now you've got all these people, all these kids looking up to him, and like they can say, well, they've probably slagged off maybe Gypsy in the past, some of them have not, but it's like for us, everyone's looking up to him now, and it's like it's good for that we can change like the perception on it through sport. So obviously I'm going to try and do the same, and obviously you've got Billy Joe Saunders, a lot of other good fighters in the travelling community who's staying on and trying to do that now.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously Tyson Fury as well, like you say, being so mainstream. Do you think that's, people like that, obviously your goal, I guess, is to, make it to such a huge level as well, although obviously that'd be tough, but, is that something that, like you say, it's important to change perceptions, not just in boxing, but kind of outside of boxing as well?
Well, it's like you say, he's gone that big now that you see the sort of videos and the press he's getting, and like how he's lived and how he's been brought up, and they get to see more into it of how we actually are. Like we're not bad people. We're brought up, if anything, the right way, and obviously you can just see more into it. It's not just some of the shows and the programs what's all bad. You're actually starting to see the good. So with him doing that, more people's actually seeing like what it is to be growing up like a young gypsy kid. So.
And is it difficult for some? You say you stopped going to school about 11 or 12. Was that difficult in some ways? Just not to be. Obviously, most kids are in school. Is it that something that's difficult? I guess boxing was a bit of an escape, and your sort of place to go, really.
Yeah, sort of. Like you said, we're always with like family and other kids, so you're always socialising. The one thing is, where you're always around adults, that I think I got more social skills from not being at school than I probably would have done going to school. Like for me, I was never gonna go and be something where I needed, say, education or something. It was either I was gonna be a boxer, or I was just gonna go and work in like whatever the family business was. So for me, I just sort of turned everything again onto boxing. So I just concentrated on doing that and being the best I can be from a young age. And obviously, big thanks to my family. Obviously, they pushed me and helped me and sacrificed things themselves. And sometimes my dad would drop work and to go to the gym and train me and things like that. So
yeah,
I've been at it a long time.
Yeah, and your amateur career obviously had a lot of success. You were the first sort of British youth Olympic gold medalist. Just tell us a bit about that experience. I think, was it in Buenos Aires, the trip? How was that? Yeah, and just tell me a bit about that.
That was an unbelievable experience. I never knew really nothing about the Youth Olympic Games from being younger, when I was maybe 15, 16, and I won the European Championships, and like not many fighters won that, and I was like every tournament I had for England I was winning, and then I think it was 2018, and I said, right, this is a big year, and they said there's the European, the World Championships, and the Youth Olympics, which is every 4 years. So in a way, you're sort of lucky if your age group fits in it, because maybe if I was born, say, a year older, I'd have missed out on it. But you had to actually win a gold medal in Europe to qualify, which is massive, really, because it's not just the pressure of winning a tournament. You had to think about, well, if I lose, I'm not going. And that year, like you say, I was cleaning up. I won the Europeans, got to the final of the World Championships, which I really, in my opinion, I won that fight as well. And then going out to Argentina was a brilliant experience.
Obviously, you're part of a multi-sport games with the Youth Olympics, and then you obviously turned pro quite early. Was there ever a temptation to stick around for, a senior Olympic cycle, or was it always go pro early?
Yeah, my goal was obviously, I set my goal from a young age to go to the 2020 Olympic Games, and once I won all the other ones, and I was number one in the world under 19 for about 2 years, I thought, right, it's time for me to go on my the GB program and sort of fast track and try and push towards 2020. And the longness I had to wait, there was like a few issues where I'd have missed a lot of the qualifiers or missed a lot of competitions, and it was sort of like a waiting game. I was sitting around for maybe 6 months not doing nothing. And for me, where I boxed all my life, I've never had no break from it. It was like, what am I supposed to do? I had no fights, nothing to train for, no ambition. I just sort of thought, you know what? I set out to win near enough every tournament at amateur. I won the Youth Olympics. I went to World Championships, won medals, Europeans, English, British. Done the whole lot, so I thought it was time for a new journey. And that's when obviously I got in touch with Dave, and went down there and started training and just went from there, really.
And what are the sort of challenges you faced in that, adaptation to the professional game from being an amateur? What have you found the sort of trickier parts of the game?
Do you know what? I don't find it much different, but I think that's all down to like you mentioned before. From say 15, with me not having to go to school, I trained like a professional. When I was boxing amateur, I'd get up in the morning, I'd go running 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd come back, I'd do another session 10 o'clock, and I trained 3 times a day from being about 16-year-old. So the thing is, I was training like a mini professional, as you could say back then. So for me, boxing's always been my life. So not much has changed. It's still my life now, and it was before. So for me, it's just about pushing every day and working hard to get where I want to be.
Yeah, and I think early in your pro career, you went over to the Wildcard Gym for a little bit, didn't you, with Freddie Roach and Devin Haney? Is that right? Just tell me a little bit about that experience being there and how that trip came about and what it was like.
Well, obviously I had a few months with Dave, and then it was coming up to where I was going to be having my debut and whatever else. So he said, right, part of my development, we went out to America. So I went out to the Wildcard Gym. Like, say, some of the best sparring in the world's out there in America. In the Wildcard Gym, you just get in with everyone. You could be getting in with world champions, world amateur champions, like sort of just like a big Royal Rumble. Everyone's in the gym, and then it's sort of like 1 in, 1 out. If you don't quickly get in the ring with your head guard on, then you're going to miss out on the sparring. I literally flew, and whatever it is, I think it was about 10 hours, and then I slept for a couple of hours, and I got straight up, went to the gym sparring, and I waited about 2 hours, 3 hours with all my gear on. And I was like, yep, you're next. But I must have waited like 2 hours. And Dave said he noticed quite early that my mentality for such a young kid is, I wasn't bothered. It was like, I've seen it all before, and got in and sparred after like a bit of jet lag or whatever else, and watched, say, Devin Haney and all them other world-class fighters spar. And I had a good 2 weeks out there of sparring, not only at the Wildcard, but in Manny Robles' gym. And just, it was brilliant sparring out there. And for my development, I come back after, say, 2 weeks, a lot better fighter than I was going there. So I'm sure in the future we'll go back out to America sparring again.
Yeah, you mentioned Manny Robles, Freddie Roach there as well. Did you get any sort of anything you learned or anything you got from being around those guys in particular?
Just watching, say, like how they train over there. Obviously, it's different to how we train over here. Like they've got different styles of boxing, and just like how the top trainers and the top fighters in the world go about, say, before boxing, how they go about themselves, how to deal with, say, media, how to deal with getting ready, mentality, everything. Just sort of being around them helped me from like this. Before I've even had a professional fight, I was sparring world level fighters, like people who was boxing world title eliminators, and I never even had a pro fight, and they were saying, this kid's definitely ready to turn pro. So that was the good experience I got.
And it's been an interesting start to your pro career. Obviously made your debut when they were sort of at Manchester Arena, I think it was, then ended up on the undercard of the AJ fight in Saudi Arabia. What was that trip like? I mean, I imagine when you draw up the career, you don't picture Saudi Arabia as the second fight. So, what was that trip like, the whole experience?
It was mad. First, when I found out, I was actually supposed to be boxing in York Hall, and Dave ran hit me with a bad news. He said, you're not boxing, so I was a bit gutted. And then he turned around and said, well, you are boxing in Saudi Arabia on Josh undercard. And I thought he was joking at first. And then, like you said, just the whole experience, that was like one of the biggest shows in the past, say, biggest shows ever, really. And just to be out there with everywhere I went, it was celebrities, world-class fighters, and obviously AJ and how the media is, and it was just an unbelievable experience and good for me to showcase my skills on such a big stage so early on. I think it's helped with get a good following and things, because a lot of people seen me box from that earlier. I got a good slot. I was on live on Sky Sports, and so it was all good. I put on a good performance.
Yeah, and then from the Razzmatazz of Saudi Arabia, you go to the Brentwood Holiday Inn, and then the fight camp at Eddie Hearn's place. I mean, I was there for I think it was the third week. The third week show was a very different experience for everyone, I think. But yeah, what were your memories now looking back on that and that summer? It was a bit of a strange one, but yeah, what do you sort of remember when you look back at fight camp, the week, the fight, and that experience?
It was different, obviously, going from having like hundreds and thousands of people around to then like you're in the hotel and it's just fighters, coaches, and like there wasn't much media what was in there. But for me, I think personally, fight week, you don't really do much anyways. You do a little bit of training, you chill out in your room, and it's all about just getting yourself ready to perform on that one night. And obviously with the no crowd, yeah, you do miss the crowd. There's nothing better than having a good crowd there. But for me, in my head, I've just got to treat it as boxing's boxing, a ring's a ring, and that's how I look at it. No matter if there's 100,000 people watching me or one person, I'm going to put on the same performance. And
of course, the next fight's been announced. It's a bit of a step up, a good test. Looking forward to it. And what are the goals now going into 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's just been announced today, and as we all know, times is changing with what's going on in the world at the minute with the coronavirus, and obviously we're all in this pandemic. You haven't got time to have as many fights as say you had before. But for me, it's better because I didn't get into the sport to be sort of around fighting journeyman. Obviously, I know it's only my fourth fight, but let's see how good I am. I know how good I am. My close team around me knows how good I am. So let's take the step. If I want to be an elite world level fighter, a world champion, then I've got to get past these steps I'm willing to take at this minute so early on. So I'm willing to take the step ups at the right time. But that's how I see it. I don't see the point really in keep fighting people who's not coming to win. I want good competition, and that's why I'm taking these sort of fights.
And I suppose is it quite good being the age you are at and the sort of stage you've turned pro that you have got time on your side. You could probably afford to roll the dice a little bit and know that you've got time on your side. You've got plenty of years in the game, sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. I've got plenty of years in the game, but for me, I'm just I'm super confident in my ability to. It's just another stepping stone. I've got to go out there February 13th, and obviously it looks like a step up, but it's time for me to really show my class and show how good I am. And I think, especially with this fight, how big of a step it is, people will start seeing how good I really am, because I'm going to try and steal the show anyways, February 13th.
Yeah, and finally, you mentioned earlier how your dad especially, but your family sort of sacrificed a lot. Being there to train you when you were growing up. I guess you might not be having might not be trained by your dad now. You're trained by Dave Caldwell, but I guess you're fighting sort of for them a little bit. It'd mean a lot if you could bring that success back to the family and a world title one day.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, when I used to win my amateur medals and that, and I'd get them back and see how proud the whole family was of me. I actually give all my medals to my dad. I'd all come back and say, that's for you, you keep. So my mum and dad's got a trophy cabinet just full of all my amateur medals and trophies, and obviously it'd be a dream to bring a world title back to the household. But like I say, I'm still early in my career. I'd like to pick up as many belts as possible, to be honest with you. Even if I go the old-fashioned route, British, Commonwealth, European, I like to clean up and win as many titles as possible.
Nice one. Cheers, Hopey. Look forward to seeing you try and win all those titles years to come. And thanks for speaking to me. All the best when you fight on the 30th, whatever the date is.